My wife presented me with the divorce papers at the grand opening of her extravagant $8 million restaurant. The audacity of it all, she did it right there, in front of our so-called friends and the investors, who, let's be honest, had never taken me seriously. They dubbed me the intern husband, convinced I was just a temporary fixture, a stepping stone on her climb to a newer, shinier life. Little did they know, for the past 6 months, I'd been meticulously crafting my own plan, a countermove to this very moment. It all started the second I walked out of that restaurant, the taste of betrayal still bitter on my tongue, and made that first pivotal call from the parking lot. Before the clock struck midnight, I intended to systematically drain every single bank account associated with her precious restaurant. Her new life, 2 years in the making, built on what I now saw as a foundation of lies, would come crashing down around her. My phone was already buzzing incessantly, a symphony of desperate pleas I chose to ignore. I simply smiled, a cold, determined smile, and silenced the irritating noise. It was time my wife learned a crucial lesson. The biggest mistake wasn't choosing the wrong person, but severely underestimating the right one. Tonight, at precisely 7:15 p.m., I made a point of arriving 15 minutes late. I steered my trusty, but admittedly outdated, 10-year-old Ford pickup into the parking lot of Twilight Manor. Sophia, my soon-to-be ex-wife, had been relentlessly texting me all afternoon, emphasizing the monumental importance of this opening. She declared, with breathless excitement, that this restaurant would irrevocably change our lives. Well, she was right about that last part, just not in the way she had so naively imagined. Twilight Manor. Even the name dripped with the pretentiousness she now seemed to crave. It was supposed to be a high-end steakhouse, the kind of place where a single, perfectly marbled steak commanded a staggering $80, and the wine list was as thick and weighty as a damn phone book. For 2 years, she had meticulously planned this dream, obsessing over every minute detail. This included sourcing custom crystal chandeliers from some obscure artisan in Europe and ensuring the cutlery had a specific, almost ethereal silver sheen. And I, a simple construction contractor, had funded her every whim, every extravagant decision, with the hard-earned money I, in my foolish naivete, thought she would be forever grateful for. The valet attendant, a young man barely old enough to shave, eyed my pickup truck with undisguised disappointment. While meticulously clean and well-maintained, it clearly didn't quite fit in with the gleaming parade of luxurious BMWs and sleek Mercedes-Benzes parked nearby. I handed him the keys, ignoring his barely concealed sneer, and straightened my tie. I was wearing my best suit tonight, the dark gray one with subtle pinstripes. If this was indeed the last time I saw these people, I wanted to at least look presentable, to maintain a semblance of dignity in the face of their impending shock. The moment I stepped through the heavy glass doors, I felt it. Something was undeniably wrong. The atmosphere in the room palpably shifted, as if someone had subtly lowered the thermostat. The conversations didn't cease entirely, but they became noticeably softer, more deliberate, almost conspiratorial. Heads turned in my direction, eyes locked onto me, and then came those smiles. Those insidious, patronizing smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. They were the kind of smiles that screamed, "We know something you don't." I recognized most of the faces. Her culinary school cronies were decked out in pristine chef whites, worn like badges of honor. There were the investors she had so relentlessly courted for months. Old men in expensive suits, their faces etched with boredom. They'd written her hefty checks, swayed by her practiced charm and the way she feigned interest in their tedious stories. Local food critics, those arbiters of taste, were already clutching glasses of champagne, their expressions carefully cultivated to convey a world-weary boredom. Scattered throughout the room were our mutual friends, the couples we had shared countless dinners and laughter with at our own table. Every single person looked at me as if I were a punchline to a joke they had all heard before. I noticed an unfamiliar woman standing in the corner, perhaps 45 years old, dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit that radiated power. She was engaged in an intense conversation with 2 men, her posture exuding an unmistakable air of authority. I surmised she was Jennifer Walsh, the business partner my wife had mentioned, the one who'd invested a cool $50,000. We had met a few times, but I'd never been formally introduced, always kept at arm's length, it seemed. I walked towards the bar, carefully maintaining a neutral expression, determined not to betray the turmoil roiling inside me. A young bartender, barely out of his teens, trying desperately to appear sophisticated, gave me a practiced nod. "What can I get for you, sir?" he asked, his voice carefully modulated. "Whiskey, neat. Make it a double." As he poured the amber liquid, I heard it. The voice, male, dripping with condescension, and deliberately loud enough to carry across the room. Can you believe it? The intern husband actually showed up. The laughter followed, a chorus of cruel amusement. It was the confident, self-assured kind you hear when everyone is in on the same joke, and you're the unfortunate target. I didn't turn around, refusing to give them the satisfaction. I picked up the whiskey, took a slow, deliberate sip, and let the burning sensation settle in my chest, a temporary distraction from the fire in my heart. The intern husband, that's what they called me, as if I were some kind of beta test, a trial run until she found something or someone she deemed worthy. To my left, two men in chef's whites were talking quietly, but their voices carried with the peculiar acoustics of the room. Tyler, the one with the meticulously sculpted hair, said, "Marcus won't be a problem after tonight." The other man, paunchy and balding, replied with a chuckle, "About time. She's finally upgrading." Tyler Henderson, the genius chef my wife couldn't stop raving about. A James Beard Award nominee with impossibly perfect cheekbones and a smile that could probably conquer any woman's heart. The man I had been secretly investigating for the past 3 agonizing months. There you are. Her voice cut through the noise, bright and artificially cheerful. I turned to see Sophia approaching, wearing a slinky black cocktail dress I'd never seen before. She probably bought it just for tonight, I thought bitterly. Maybe she even bought it with the money from our joint account, all while she was meticulously planning to cut me out of her life. "You're late," she said, her smile tight and strained. "Traffic," I replied, keeping my voice even. "The place looks good. You must be very proud." Something flickered across her face, too quickly for me to decipher. Behind her, I saw Tyler peek out from the kitchen doorway and give her a subtle nod. Even from this distance, I could see the look of triumph practically radiating from his smug face. "We need to talk privately," she told me, her eyes darting nervously around the room. She didn't wait for my response, simply turned on her designer heels and headed towards the door marked "Private Area" at the back of the restaurant. I followed her, acutely aware that every single eye in the room was tracking our movement. The whispering started even before we left the main hall, a sibilant wave of speculation washing over me. I distinctly heard Jennifer Walsh tell her companion, "It's finally happening." The private office was small, functional, and utterly devoid of any personal touches. Probably used for paperwork, inventory management, the mundane realities of running a business. A desk, 2 chairs, and a utilitarian filing cabinet. She closed the door behind us, and the noise from the party became muffled and distant, a surreal backdrop to the scene about to unfold. I noticed a bottle of champagne, already opened, and 2 elegant glasses on the desk. She had clearly planned this as some kind of twisted celebration. "I'm glad you came," she began, but her tone was utterly devoid of sincerity, suggesting quite the opposite. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, keeping my voice carefully neutral. 2 years of planning, an $8 million investment. Tonight is important. Her jaw clenched, a subtle tick that betrayed her rising tension. "About that, we need to discuss some changes." Changes. She reached into a desk drawer and pulled out a manila envelope, the kind lawyers use for important, life-altering documents. I noted the law firm's label, Harrison, Black, and Associates. Expensive lawyers. She had clearly spent a considerable amount of money orchestrating this little charade. She held the envelope for a moment, as if reconsidering, then deliberately placed it on the desk between us, a gauntlet thrown down in the sterile silence. "I think we both know this marriage hasn't been working for a while," she stated, her voice flat and devoid of emotion. I took another deliberate sip of my whiskey, allowing the silence to stretch, to amplify the awkwardness. She wanted me to argue, to look shocked, to give her some kind of emotional reaction that would validate her actions. I gave her nothing. I've had the papers drawn up, she continued, her voice filled with rehearsed confidence. A clean separation. You keep your investment accounts. I keep the restaurant. We split the rest fairly. No drama, no arguing. Just two adults admitting that sometimes things don't work out. I carefully set my glass down on the desk, pretending to consider her words, to weigh the implications of her cold, calculated proposal. In reality, I was already imagining the look on her face when she realized she had just signed her own financial death warrant. In approximately 2 hours. You're divorcing me on the opening night of your restaurant, I stated, my voice devoid of inflection. I'm celebrating a new beginning, she corrected me, her voice sharp. A coldness I had never seen before flickered in her eyes. The first official event for Twilight Manor is me taking control of my own life. Symbolic. Symbolic? I repeated, the word dripping with irony. That's one way to put it. She pushed the envelope closer to me, urging me to take it. I could see her hand trembling slightly, despite her valiant attempt to maintain an air of composure. The papers are straightforward. My lawyer has reviewed everything. You just need to sign and we can both move on. You told people I was your intern husband, I said, my voice low and deliberate. I got a reaction. Her eyes widened slightly, and the carefully constructed mask slipped for a fleeting moment. Genuine surprise broke through her practiced calm. Who told you that? She demanded, her voice laced with suspicion. Does it matter? Is it true? She had the decency to look away, a flicker of shame momentarily clouding her features. People exaggerate things, she mumbled, her voice barely audible. About how I was good enough to fund your dream, but not good enough to share it with you when it came true? I finished the unspoken sentence for her, the bitterness finally creeping into my voice. Her expression hardened, the vulnerability instantly banished. Don't make this uglier than it has to be, she snapped. You've had a good, comfortable life with me. This isn't about your inadequacy. It's about me needing something different now. I picked up the champagne bottle and poured 2 glasses, the bubbles fizzing merrily in the tense silence. She looked genuinely confused, momentarily thrown off balance by my unexpected action. Celebrating what? She asked, her voice laced with suspicion. A new beginning, I replied, raising my glass in a mock toast. You're right. Tonight really will change everything. She cautiously raised her glass, still uncertain of my reaction, wary of some hidden trap. We clinked glasses, the sound sharp and brittle in the small room, and I watched her take a small, hesitant sip, unaware that this was the last drink she'd ever have at Twilight Manor. I opened the envelope and took out the documents. A standard marital settlement agreement, exactly as she had described. A fair division of assets, no alimony since we both had our own income, a clean break. On paper, it looked perfectly reasonable, almost generous. She had undoubtedly shown it to her lawyer, and they would all agree that she had been more than fair, practically saintly in her magnanimity. What none of them knew was that every single dollar in the Twilight Manor accounts, every piece of gleaming equipment in that state-of-the-art kitchen, every custom light fixture in the dining room had all been meticulously structured as a loan, not a gift. It was a secured debt, with very specific clauses that she had conveniently ignored in her excitement when she gleefully signed the papers 18 months ago. I took the pen from my jacket pocket, deliberately tapping it on the desk a few times, savoring the moment, prolonging her anticipation. I picked it up and signed every page quickly and efficiently, my signature a decisive flourish on each document. The argument she expected, the emotional outburst she was undoubtedly bracing herself for, never came. My cooperation clearly relaxed her, but it simultaneously bewildered her. As I signed the final page, she looked almost disbelieving, as if she couldn't quite comprehend that I was making it so easy for her. She reached across the desk to take the papers, as if receiving a prize she had rightfully won. Well, That's that, I said, sliding the signed documents back across the desk towards her. Congratulations on your new beginning. She picked up the documents, her eyes scanning each signature, unable to quite believe I had made it so easy. Thank you for being so mature about this, she said, her voice laced with relief. I know it's not easy, but you'll understand. It's better for both of us. I'm sure it is. I agreed, finishing the last of my whiskey and champagne in one swift gulp. Should I stay for the party, or would you prefer me to leave? I think it would be better if you left, she said, her voice betraying a note of barely concealed relief. Less awkward for everyone. Of course, I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Wouldn't want to make your guests uncomfortable. I stood up and adjusted my jacket, smoothing out any imaginary wrinkles. Just one question before I go. What? She asked, her voice tight with apprehension. I paused, letting the tension build, relishing her discomfort. Does he know you're chef? Does he know you're divorcing me tonight? Does he know he's the reason you're celebrating your new beginning? Her face went ashen, all the blood draining from her cheeks, leaving her looking pale and vulnerable. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Of course you don't, I replied, my voice laced with derision. Enjoy your night, Sophia. I walked out of that office with my head held high, my phone already clutched in my hand, ready to unleash the carefully orchestrated plan. Behind me, I could hear her hurrying after me, likely trying to gauge exactly how much I knew, how much damage I was about to inflict. In the main hall, the party was still in full swing, but I noticed more eyes on me now, more furtive whispers following my every step. I heard snippets of conversations as I made my way towards the exit. Looks like he's taking it well. She was right. He was always just a placeholder. Tyler is a much better fit for her. As I passed Jennifer Walsh, she gave me a sympathetic nod. Marcus, thank you for coming tonight, she said, her voice filled with false concern. I know this can't be easy for you. Not at all easy, I replied, giving her a meaningful smile that I hoped conveyed more than mere politeness. But sometimes, Jennifer, the most difficult nights lead to the best outcomes. She looked slightly confused, her brow furrowed, but I had already continued towards the door, eager to escape the suffocating atmosphere of that room. At the entrance, I saw Tyler emerge from the kitchen, his face wreathed in a triumphant smirk. He walked towards Sophia, clearly ready to celebrate their victory, to bask in the glow of their shared accomplishment. I handed the parking ticket to the valet, my phone already poised, ready to execute the final phase of my plan. Before I got into the truck, I made the first call. Robert, it's Marcus. Execute the liquidation. All of it. I want the Twilight Manor accounts emptied before midnight. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. Are you sure, Marcus? Once we do this. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, I interrupted, my voice firm and resolute. Execute it. I hung up the phone and smiled. A genuine smile this time. The first one I'd felt all night. I turned down the volume on my phone, silencing the inevitable barrage of panicked calls to come. I had a 20-minute drive back to my apartment, and 2 more crucial calls to make. By midnight, Sophia's world would begin to irrevocably collapse, crumbling around her like a house of cards. She wouldn't even begin to understand what had happened until it was far too late to salvage anything. On the drive back to my apartment, I reflected on the last 6 months of meticulous planning, the slow burn of suspicion that had gradually consumed me. I'm not the kind of man who trusts blindly, who ignores the warning signs. When my wife started coming home late on Tuesday nights, her excuses increasingly flimsy, when she began buying new lingerie, the kind she knew I particularly liked, and when she started talking about our restaurant instead of my restaurant, I knew something was deeply, fundamentally off. But the real turning point, the moment when suspicion hardened into certainty, was a Thursday evening 3 months ago. I came home early from a job site and found her in the backyard on the phone, her voice low and conspiratorial. I distinctly heard her say, through the slightly ajar kitchen window, I can't pretend anymore, Tyler. We need to finalize the plan. That was the moment I knew. That was the moment I started planning my revenge. The second call I made was to Frank, my longtime accountant, a man I trusted implicitly. Frank, it's Marcus. Execute Plan B. I want all automated payments canceled before midnight. Payroll, vendors, utilities, everything. The accounts will be completely emptied at 11:45 sharp. Frank's voice was hesitant, filled with concern. Marcus, everything is proceeding as planned. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this? This will utterly destroy her. Yes, Frank, I am sure, I replied, my voice firm and unwavering. She destroyed our marriage. Now it's my turn to face the consequences of her actions. Frank was silent for a long moment, the only sound the faint static on the line. Marcus, I've known you for 15 years. You've never been a vindictive man. I'm not being vindictive, Frank. I corrected him, my voice still calm, but with an underlying edge of steel. I'm simply executing consequences. There's a fundamental difference. The third and final call was to Kevin Parker, a former FBI agent, now a highly sought-after private investigator. He was, without a doubt, the best investigator money could buy. Kevin, it's time, I said, my voice low and intense. Send the packages. To whom? Everyone. Kevin. Her parents, the investors, every single person who was there tonight, celebrating her treachery. Let them see what they were really investing in. Let them see the truth. Kevin hesitated for a moment, his voice laced with professional caution. Marcus, are you absolutely certain? Once those are sent, there's no turning back. I am certain, Kevin, I replied, my voice resolute. Send everything. All right, Marcus, Kevin said, sighing softly. The packages have been ready for weeks, meticulously prepared, just waiting for your command. I just need to hit send. And Kevin, I added, almost as an afterthought. What, Marcus? That special letter for Tyler? Send that along too. He deserves to know exactly who he's dealing with, the kind of woman he's hitching his wagon to. The one about Sophia's 2 previous affairs. The details she conveniently left out of their love story. There was a long, pregnant pause on the other end of the line. Marcus, that will absolutely destroy her credibility, professionally and personally. It will completely and utterly ruin her. Yes, I said, my voice devoid of any remorse. Send it. Back at my apartment, I poured myself another generous glass of whiskey and sat by the window, the city lights twinkling below like a million tiny stars. I thought back to my first meeting with Kevin, on a gloomy Monday morning 3 months ago. I need you to investigate my wife. I had told him, my voice tight with suppressed anger. You suspect she's cheating? Kevin had asked, his expression neutral. I know she's cheating. I had corrected him, my voice hard. I need the evidence, the timeline, the irrefutable details. I need to know everything. Kevin had nodded slowly, his eyes assessing me carefully. What level of investigation do you want? Basic? Comprehensive? I had interrupted him, cutting him off mid-sentence. I want to know everything, Kevin. Every rendezvous, every text message, every carefully constructed lie. I want a complete dossier, a meticulously documented record that will hold up in court if necessary. Marcus, that level of investigation is costly. Kevin had warned, his voice professional. Cost is not an issue, I had replied, my voice firm. Time is not an issue. I want total, devastating proof. 3 weeks later, Kevin had returned with the first set of photos, delivered in a discreet manila envelope. Sophia and Tyler kissing passionately in the parking lot of the Wilson Hotel, her hand possessively gripping his shirt, their bodies pressed tightly together, oblivious to the world around them. The date stamp showed 2:30 p.m. The same day she had told me she was in a crucial meeting with a vendor, finalizing the details of the restaurant's wine list. But the photos, as damning as they were only the beginning. The text messages revealed the true extent of their betrayal, exposing the meticulously planned duplicity that had been unfolding right under my nose. They were planning not only their illicit relationship but also how to systematically get rid of me, how to erase me from their future. My favorite, if one could even use that word in this context, was the text Tyler had sent Sophia on May 12th. Once you get rid of the contractor, we can really begin. The restaurant will be ours, not just yours. We can finally be together without hiding, without the constant fear of getting caught. Sophia's reply had been even more shocking. Her words chillingly devoid of any remorse. I know, she had texted back, her words echoing in my mind like a death knell. Marcus is so incredibly naive. He thinks he's investing in our future, but he's actually paying for his own replacement. He's funding his own downfall. My phone had already started ringing, the insistent chirping shattering the tense silence of my apartment. The first text message had arrived at 11:25 p.m., a mere 5 minutes before the deadline. Marcus, there's a problem with the accounts. We need to talk. Call me immediately. I ignored it, refusing to give her the satisfaction of an immediate response. The second text arrived 5 minutes later, her tone noticeably more frantic. Marcus, this isn't a joke. The bank says the funds are frozen. Call me immediately. This is not funny. By 11:30, more texts poured in, each one more desperate than the last. The bank said all payments have been stopped. What is going on, Marcus? If this is some kind of prank, stop it now. This is not a game. At 11:35, the panic truly started to set in, her carefully constructed facade of composure crumbling under the weight of the impending disaster. Marcus, I'm at the bank. They said you recalled all the funds. This cannot be real. Please tell me this is some kind of mistake, some horrible misunderstanding. 11:40 p.m. Staff are asking about their paychecks. Vendors are calling, demanding immediate payment. Marcus, if you don't fix this immediately, the restaurant will collapse on its first night of opening. You're ruining everything. At 11:45, the desperation began to truly set in, her carefully crafted world teetering on the brink of total collapse. Marcus, $8 million is gone. Vanished. What happened? I'm losing everything. People are leaving. Please, Marcus, I'm begging you. Fix this. Midnight. My phone showed a staggering 43 missed calls, each one a testament to the chaos and devastation I had unleashed. The text messages had escalated to a fever pitch, her pleas becoming increasingly frantic and desperate. You can't do this, Marcus. People depend on this business. This is not just about me anymore. Simultaneously, I started receiving texts from other people, the shock waves of my actions rippling outwards, engulfing everyone connected to Twilight Manor. Jennifer Walsh, Marcus, I just received some extremely disturbing photos and documents regarding Sophia. Is this true? What is going on? Mr. Thompson, Sophia's father, Marcus, I just received a report about my daughter. We need to talk immediately. This is unacceptable. Even Tyler, the arrogant chef, had the audacity to text me, his message dripping with false concern. Marcus, we need to discuss Sophia's restaurant situation. There are things I didn't know before. This is all a misunderstanding. 12:03 a.m. A sharp, insistent knock echoed through my apartment, shattering the tense silence. Sophia stood at my doorstep, her face streaked with tears, her makeup smeared, her eyes wide with desperation. She was still wearing that slinky black cocktail dress, the one she had undoubtedly purchased to celebrate her newfound freedom. But now she looked like she was dressed for a funeral, her vibrant excitement replaced with a hollow despair. Her hands were shaking uncontrollably, and I could see she had been crying, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. What did you do? She demanded, her voice hoarse and trembling. The $8 million is all gone. The bank says you recalled all the funds. The restaurant is in chaos. Guests are leaving. Staff are crying, and vendors are demanding payment. You've ruined everything. I leaned against the door frame, affecting a casual indifference, savoring the moment, reveling in her distress. Recalled is more accurate than gone, I said, my voice calm and even deliberately contrasting with her hysterical outburst. It's not as if it disappeared into thin air. You can't do that, she shrieked, her voice rising in pitch, desperation shattering her composure. That's the restaurant's money. That's not yours to take. No, Sophia. I corrected her, my voice still calm and measured. That was my money. According to the loan agreement we signed 18 months ago, remember? You were far too excited, too blinded by your ambition, to read the terms carefully. Her face paled further, if that was even possible, the color draining from her cheeks, leaving her looking gaunt and almost ghostly. Loan agreement? She stammered, her voice barely a whisper. You said it was an investment. You said you believed in my dream. I said it was funding. I countered, my voice devoid of any emotion. You assumed it was a gift, a blank check to pursue your fantasies. The legal documents are crystal clear, Sophia. It was a secured loan with very specific clauses, one of which explicitly stated that if the borrower engaged in fraudulent behavior or acted in a manner detrimental to the lender's interests, the loan could be immediately called in full, with no prior notice. I didn't defraud anyone, she shrieked, her voice reaching a fever pitch, desperation shattering her carefully constructed composure. Didn't you? I asked, raising an eyebrow in mock surprise. I took out my phone and pulled up one of the photos Kevin had sent me, the one that sealed her fate. The picture of Sophia and Tyler kissing passionately in the Wilson Hotel parking lot. Their bodies intertwined, their faces flushed with desire. The date stamp showed 3 weeks ago, the evidence undeniable. Using the borrowed funds to finance your illicit relationship with another man while simultaneously planning my divorce is legally considered fraud, Sophia. It's a clear breach of contract, and it gave me every right to recall the loan. She stared at the photo, her mouth agape, but no words came out. Her legs seemed to give way beneath her, and she had to lean heavily on the door frame to support herself, her body shaking with suppressed sobs. Did you honestly think I wouldn't find out, Sophia? All those Tuesday night business meetings that stretched later and later? The new lingerie you started buying, the kind you knew I particularly liked, the transparent attempts to assuage my suspicions? You even started calling it our restaurant instead of my restaurant, as if that would somehow convince me that we were in this together. Did you honestly think I was that stupid? Marcus, please, she whispered, her voice barely audible, tears streaming down her face. Please what, Sophia? I asked, my voice hard and unforgiving. Please forgive you for betraying me? Please pretend that the last 6 years of our marriage meant nothing? Please let you walk away with everything you wanted, leaving me with nothing but a broken heart and an empty bank account? I don't think so. Kevin Parker, former FBI agent, has been documenting your every move for the last 3 months. Sophia, I continued, my voice unrelenting. Every clandestine date, every incriminating text message, every time you told me you were working late but were actually wrapped in Tyler's arms. Want to see more pictures? I have plenty. I scrolled to the next photo, a more intimate shot this time. Sophia and Tyler on his apartment balcony, her clad in a silk bathrobe, his chest bare, only in his underwear. The timestamp showed 11 a.m. The same day she had told me she was meeting with her accountant to discuss the restaurant's quarterly profits. She took a step back, recoiling as if she had been physically struck, hitting the hallway wall with a sickening thud. What right did you have to spy on me? She demanded, her voice laced with indignation, even in the face of her own egregious betrayal. I had every right to protect my investment, Sophia. When you were brazenly using my money to fund your betrayal, to finance your new life with another man, I retorted, my voice dripping with sarcasm. I showed her more photos, each one more damning than the last. Then, I showed her the text messages, the words leaping off the screen, condemning her in her own handwriting. This is your text conversation with Tyler from 3 days ago, I said, my voice cold and devoid of any emotion. You told him you'd be rid of the dead weight tonight. Dead weight? I repeated, my voice laced with incredulity. Is that what you think of 6 years of marriage, Sophia? Is that how you describe the man who supported you, who funded your dreams, who loved you unconditionally? I read out the next text message, her words hanging in the air like a shroud. After tonight, Marcus is history. Twilight Manor will be our new start. A fresh beginning just for us. I paused, letting the words sink in, letting the full weight of her treachery crush her. Then I continued, my voice relentless. You also wrote, and I quote, he's so incredibly naive. He doesn't even know he's paying for his own replacement. He's so blinded by his own ego that he doesn't even realize he's funding his own downfall. Sophia's hands were shaking uncontrollably, and she looked like she might throw up, her face pale and clammy. Marcus, we can work this out. I'll pay the money back, I retorted, though the words felt hollow even to my own ears. Pay it back with what? The question hung heavy in the air. Your credit score is 642. You have no collateral and no other source of income. Twilight Manor was your only asset. And, I paused, clearing my throat with deliberate emphasis. Now it's gone too. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, I pressed on. What about the staff? The vendors? They're innocent in all this. A weak, desperate plea escaped her lips. They are. That's precisely why I made damn sure they knew the truth tonight, instead of waking up in a few months to bounced paychecks and a mountain of lies. Now, I stated, my voice devoid of pity. They have a fighting chance to find new jobs, to escape being dragged down into the abyss of your deceit. The dam broke. She collapsed, a crumpled heap against the wall, sliding down until she sat on the floor, consumed by racking sobs. I lost everything, she gasped, the words barely audible. The staff, the vendors, the guests. Everyone saw it all tonight. The shame washed over her in waves. Yes, they saw. Kevin made damn sure of that. The chill in my voice was palpable. Every investor, everyone who ever mocked me tonight, everyone who so casually referred to me as the intern husband, they all know the unvarnished truth now. I allowed the weight of that statement to settle before continuing. Jennifer Walsh, your supposed business partner, invested $50,000 of her own money. I paused, pulling out my phone. She texted me just 30 minutes ago, thanking me for exposing your charade. Apparently, she always felt Tyler had far too much influence in the restaurant. And, I added with a sardonic smile, she also mentioned that she never trusts people who blatantly flirt during business meetings. Seems your little game was more transparent than you thought. Sophia's head snapped up, her eyes wide with terror, genuine fear replacing the earlier sorrow. What does she know? Everything, Sophia. The photos, the texts, the meticulous timeline. Kevin's report included detailed records of you shamelessly flirting in front of her during that business dinner on May 30th. She felt it was utterly inappropriate then but kept her silence. Now she understands precisely why she felt so uneasy. I squatted down, trying to meet her gaze, attempting a level of connection that was now irrevocably shattered. Do you know the best part, Sophia? Tyler received a little package of his own, including the carefully concealed parts of your life that you somehow neglected to mention. Her voice was barely a whisper now, ragged with fear. What parts? Oh, the usual. Just those 2 previous affairs you seem to conveniently forget about. Remember Jason, the graphic designer from 5 years ago? And Brad, the real estate agent from 3 years back? Kevin was remarkably thorough. He left no stone unturned. She looked physically ill, her face pale and clammy. Tyler also texted me about 30 minutes ago, I said, holding up my phone for her to see. He said he needs to reevaluate his options and that he couldn't possibly be associated with someone with a history of infidelity. Looks like your knight in shining armor ran the moment things got remotely complicated. What a surprise. I watched as she read the text, each word a brutal blow to her carefully constructed facade. He said he loved me, she whimpered. He said we had a future together. He loved the story, Sophia, the successful female owner and the aspiring celebrity chef. Now that you're neither successful nor an owner, the story has, shall we say, evolved. I stood up, towering over her. Tomorrow morning, City Eats magazine will publish a scathing article about the sudden and ignominious closure of Twilight Manor. They will quote numerous anonymous sources, detailing the affairs, the financial fraud, and the opening night disaster. You're going to be the laughingstock of the culinary world, she whispered, her voice laced with venom. You destroyed me. I didn't destroy anything, Sophia. You destroyed yourself. I merely ensured that the consequences were commensurate with the choices you made. My phone rang again. I glanced at the screen. Speak of the devil. Your father just texted. He wants to meet me tomorrow. I imagine he has a great many questions. Her face drained of color. You sent those photos to my parents? Kevin sent them a comprehensive report. They invested $100,000 of their hard-earned retirement savings into this venture. They had an absolute right to know the truth. Don't worry, though. I protected their investment. She looked up at me, confusion and fear warring within her. Your parents' funds were structured as a simple, straightforward loan, entirely separate from the restaurant's operations. They will receive the full amount, plus accrued interest, within 36 months. I wouldn't allow innocent people to suffer for your transgressions. I walked to the door and swung it open. You can leave now. She struggled to her feet, using the wall for support. She stopped as she passed me, her voice cracking. We were married for 6 years. Did none of that mean anything to you? 6 years? I repeated, a hint of disbelief coloring my tone. You threw away those 6 years the moment you sauntered into the Wilson Hotel with another man. You publicly humiliated me at your restaurant opening tonight. You allowed your friends to refer to me as the intern husband, turning me into the object of their cruel jokes. What exactly did you think I was, Sophia? Your doormat? She left, tears streaming down her face. I closed the door and poured myself another generous measure of whiskey. But it wasn't quite over yet. I had one final surprise waiting in the wings. I picked up my phone and dialed the familiar number. Sam, it's Marcus. Yes, I know it's late. Listen, I need you to file that report with the city building department first thing tomorrow morning. The one I've been preparing for the last 3 months. File it immediately. Sam Rivera was not only a close friend but also a highly respected building inspector. What kind of report, Marcus? He asked, a note of concern in his voice. Twilight Manor's kitchen has some rather serious code violations. The ventilation system is entirely non-compliant. The gas line was installed improperly, and there are significant fire safety issues. It requires an immediate inspection. Marcus, are you absolutely sure this will shut down the entire building until the issues are rectified? Yes, Sam, I'm certain the violations are real and, frankly, dangerous. I tried to explain this to Sophia when we were in the construction phase, but she was insistent on using the cheapest contractor and rushing the job. Now, the consequences have arrived. Over the next 72 hours, I watched Sophia's world continue to crumble and disintegrate, more completely than even my most vindictive fantasies. Twilight Manor never officially opened its doors. Staff members were inundated with refund requests, and vendors were aggressively demanding compensation. The news spread like wildfire across food blogs and social media, and the unvarnished truth was finally exposed for all to see. But the most gratifying aspect of all this was Tyler's reaction. On Tuesday morning, I received a lengthy and contrite text from him. Marcus, it read, I need to sincerely apologize for my involvement in this unfortunate situation. I was completely unaware of Sophia's previous history of betrayal, nor did I realize that the restaurant funding was a loan and not her personal fortune. I have accepted a position in New York working for Cornelia Wagner, a highly reputable investor. I sincerely hope there are no hard feelings. Cornelia Wagner, I recalled, was a wealthy widow, 62 years old, worth in excess of $200 million, and known for her penchant for collecting young, talented chefs. Tyler had effortlessly transitioned from a bankrupt restaurant owner to the kept man of a wealthy patroness. Truly, love conquers all. Even more intriguing, I received an unexpected call Wednesday afternoon. Mr. Marcus Jensen, the voice on the other end said, My name is Emily Carter, and I'm a journalist with Business Week. I'm writing an article about business partner protection, and someone mentioned that you recently executed a very clever asset protection maneuver. Would you be willing to share your story? I agreed to the interview, but only on the condition that I could review the final article prior to publication. A week later, the article was published under the headline, "When Trust Breaks, an Entrepreneur's Perfect Legal Counterattack." It meticulously detailed how I structured the funding as a loan rather than an investment, how I built the fraud clause into the agreement, and how I meticulously collected the evidence necessary to trigger those protections. It quickly became required reading for the Small Business Administration. More importantly, I began receiving inquiries from other entrepreneurs, all eager for me to design similar protection structures and teach them how to identify the telltale signs of partner betrayal. This gave me an idea. Just 3 days later, Jennifer Walsh came to my office, not to confront me, but to offer an apology. "Marcus," she said, her voice sincere, "I want to apologize for what I said at the party. I had absolutely no idea that Sophia was cheating on you, nor that she was openly referring to you as the intern husband." "What about your investment, Jennifer?" I asked. I wrote it off, considered it a $50,000 lesson in the importance of thoroughly vetting business partners. "But I want you to know, Marcus, I don't believe the loss was because you retaliated against her." I looked at her, waiting for her to elaborate. "She built her entire business on a foundation of lies. She used your money to fund her betrayal. This wasn't revenge, Marcus. It was merely consequence." She paused. "In fact, I'm seriously considering offering you a new investment opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" I asked, intrigued. "I'm opening a new restaurant, a high-end Italian establishment. I need a partner who understands construction and someone with impeccable integrity. Are you interested?" I considered it for a moment. "Send me the business plan. We'll talk. But I'd also like to propose something a little different." She looked at me curiously. "I'm thinking of starting a new business, a business protection consulting firm, helping entrepreneurs safeguard their investments and structure robust legal safeguards. Your restaurant could be our first case study." Jennifer's eyes lit up. "Marcus, that's genius. After my experience with Sophia, I'd pay almost anything to avoid being duped again. How about we become partners? You run the business structure and protection side of things, and I'll handle the restaurant operations. 50-50th split, but you design all the legal protections." She reached out her hand. "Deal." But the most profoundly satisfying visit came from Mr. Thompson, Sophia's father. He arrived at my office on Thursday afternoon, looking at least 5 years older than the last time I had seen him. "Marcus," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "I came to thank you for protecting our investment. Without that repayment plan, we would have lost our home. You were innocent in all this. You believed in your daughter. You shouldn't have lost everything because of that." He nodded slowly, staring down at his hands. "She called me yesterday, asking if we could help her find an apartment. I told her no. I offered no response. I taught her the importance of integrity, of keeping her word, and of showing respect. She threw all of that away for what? A fancy restaurant and a chef who ran the moment things got difficult? Some lessons simply can't be taught, Marcus. They have to be experienced." He looked up at me, a flicker of unexpected admiration in his eyes. "You could have completely destroyed her, but you didn't. Why? Because that would have been about revenge, Mr. Thompson. This was about consequences. There's a significant difference." He stood to leave, pausing at the door. "She's working as a hostess now at a restaurant downtown called the Four Seasons, starting over from the very bottom." After he left, I realized that my plan had been even more successful than I had initially imagined. Sophia had gone from a soon-to-be successful restaurant owner to a hostess, performing a job she would have previously deemed beneath her. 6 weeks later, I signed the final divorce papers in Robert's office. Sophia wasn't present. Her lawyer submitted her signature separately. Robert slid the documents across the desk. "It's done, Marcus. Clean break. No continuing obligations. You are officially free." I signed the last page, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. Robert gathered the documents. Her lawyer mentioned that she's applied for 3 culinary positions, entry-level line cook jobs. She's also taking financial planning classes. financial planning classes, learning how to manage money, understand investments, and avoid debt. Apparently, she had finally realized she lacked these essential skills. I almost laughed. She was finally learning the things I had tried so diligently to teach her during our marriage. I left his office and drove past the building where Twilight Manor had once stood. New ownership signs were already in place. A chain called City Brew was taking over the space, ripping out her carefully chosen custom fixtures. 2 years of planning and an $8 million investment, all reduced to salvage value and a cautionary tale. My phone rang. It was Harrison, my accountant. "Marcus," he said, "that tech startup investment opportunity is a go." And he added that your returns are up 18% this quarter. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Just being a little smarter about who I trust, Harrison." "Also, Marcus, that Italian restaurant investment Jennifer Walsh's? The numbers look fantastic. Schedule a meeting. Let's see what we can build." That night, I met Kevin at a downtown bar for a drink. He had finalized the last invoice and closed the investigation file, insisting on delivering it in person. "You handled this better than most men would have, Marcus," Kevin said, sliding the folder across the table. "You simply ensured that the consequences matched the choices. Still takes discipline and, frankly, a certain level of creativity. That building code violation move was particularly inspired." I raised my glass. "To thorough investigations and precise execution, to wise investments and knowing when to cut your losses." We clinked glasses. Walking back to my truck, I passed the restaurant where she worked, the Four Seasons. Through the window, I could see her seating guests, wearing the standard uniform and flashing the practiced, professional smile she had so diligently perfected. She looked tired but focused. She glanced toward the window, and our eyes met for a fleeting 2 seconds. There was a flash of recognition, and then she gave a small, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement. I nodded back and continued walking. 3 months earlier, she had publicly mocked me as her intern husband at a party full of people who gleefully joined in the laughter. Tonight, she was practicing humility at a hostess stand, while I walked away with everything I had built and meticulously protected. Months after signing the divorce papers, I sold my construction company to a larger corporation for $62 million. I decided to use the sale proceeds to create a new business, a consulting firm specializing in helping entrepreneurs protect their investments. I would teach them how to structure deals like I had and how to spot the subtle signs of betrayal. I already had my first client, Jennifer Walsh, and her high-end Italian restaurant. My phone rang again. This time, it was a number I immediately recognized. "Marcus," the voice on the other end said. "It's Aaron Murphy from Forbes magazine. I heard your story about your new consulting business and how you turned a personal betrayal into a significant business opportunity. I'd like to do a feature piece on you. This business protection consulting concept is exactly what entrepreneurs need right now." I smiled. My wife's betrayal hadn't just failed to destroy me. It had actually created the biggest business opportunity of my life. She had tried to use me as a stepping stone, but in the end, she became the foundation upon which I built my empire. "All right, Aaron, let's talk. Thank you for listening to this emotional roller coaster of a story. We're curious, where in the world are you watching this video right now? What time is it there? Please let us know in the comments section, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Have a wonderful day. If this story resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.
My flat sings wipers to the sky. Melodies flows gentle and free, carrying dreams across the sea. every note a piece of me, forever here in harmony. My flood sings vipers to the sky. Melodies flows gentle and free, carrying dreams across the sea. In every note a piece of me, forever here in harmony. Music lives inside my heart. Music lives inside my heart.